if there was no way of, let's say, practically and scientifically prove that democracy, or at least that, let's say, a revolutionary, let's say, action for democracy is gonna turn out well, that it's gonna be better than, I don't know, maybe we are living under a monarchy or a oligarchy, whatever, one of the two, doesn't really matter. Would you support this, let's say, revolutionary movement, even knowing that you don't have the scientifical data to support it? Like just on
No,
pure
I would.
moral.
Yeah, I would need something to substantiate it. I don't operate on assumptions.
Okay, fair.
But
The
there's an
mm,
opening for a failure condition there, right? In the sense that like someone could present valid data, right? That's relevant. In which case I would be in your favor. Right? And honestly, like
yeah.
generally speaking, democracies, work really well. I'm not against democracies at all.
In our previous conversation, you were against pretty much everything democratic. I
Well, I'm saying that there are limitations to democracy, right? And I think like being
Yes,
realistic about said limitations, I think is important. Just being aware that it's like, hey, sometimes it doesn't work out super great, right? Like we want it to work
yeah, but
good, but it's for one reason or another, it's not good.
well, what would one of, let's say, we already spoke about one of the limitation you said were bad, life good, and I thought they were bad. What would be another one that you think democracy should be limited because it doesn't really work in that field?
Are you referring to when we were talking about corporations or governments?
I think you were talking about like the main thing in reality was the, let's say, uh, constitution not being able to be changed easily. That
Yeah,
was the main thing that I remember
there
that you
is.
were.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Um, yes, so the Constitution is one of the things. I mean, there's also the Supreme Court. There's also the House and the Senate, which is in itself representatives who vote on the laws, not the people voting on the laws themselves.
Which is bad, right?
It depends. It can be bad. It can be good. It just depends on what's
Yeah, but
happening.
it's overwhelmingly bad.
I don't
Like
know
if
if we
there
would
is
call it
no,
overwhelmingly bad. I mean, we have done uh, a this democratic republic for hundreds of years now, and I'm not saying that it's like, hey, it shouldn't be open to change or that there aren't better systems, but it appeared to work, right? And not only that, like the countries that live the highest quality of living standards also have representatives for a democracy. Because most people, one, they're not really fully aware of all of the details. It requires additional people who might know more about a particular policy, such as experts coming in and then giving their testimony, hearing out all the testimony from multiple companies that it would affect. This isn't really something on the mind of the average person.
I do agree that the average person doesn't have politics in mind for now. It should be. In a democracy, we should have in mind politics. It's pretty important. But I agree with you
Okay, that's
that
cool.
today they are not. But the thing is, we basically have a political class.
Hmm.
We mostly have people that are like, it's hard to say. Like, once you become a politician, like just for being a politician, you lose so much of, let's say, the common, let's say, interest of workers at all. Like now you're in the pursuit of maybe something really good, but you know that one, if it's something really good, probably your opinion is, let's say, not very well liked, at
Oh,
least for the moment.
well, yeah. I mean, I
So,
have lots of opinions that people don't like, but as to
mm,
whether or not that it's true, well, that's a completely different scenario. Like, again, you have to operate on that. Like, the way that I think of things is it's going to operate on, like, okay, I'm getting this from like some study somewhere. I read about this, right? I'm not using my intuition.
well, you have to use your intuition on the data as well.
Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that. Yes, I do need. There's a level of intuition that you need to use in order to parse through data. Yes.
Mm.
Thankfully, I have read, books on epistemology, and have been, I don't know if I want to say that I'm good at determining what is true versus what is false, but I mean, I feel like I do a pretty good job at figuring out what's true versus false.
Mm. Fine, but the point that I was making was that, let's say, to just survive, your, let's say, common, like, your common law is not, I have to work harder or I have to find a work. You already have a work, and let's say, if you just take the uh, easiest position to, let's say, argue, the most common one, and you just don't say anything else and say nice things to your superiors, while you probably have a career
Okay.
that will make you earn a lot of money, enough to live a decent life. So this kind of, for me, makes it seem like, I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people that started out thinking they really want a change, but then through this political system, just they don't survive or they assimilate.
Well, what do you think about a guy like Obama?
I don't know much about I know his policies, but I don't know his personal story.
Well, he definitely was going against the grain. That's for sure. The other argument that I could present to you is that there are many bills that were. I mean, if I just showed them to you, you would be like, "That's there's no way this will ever pass," but it passes. The TARP Act is a really good example of this, right? He was
What?
very, very good at getting people together and actually agreeing to things that normally wouldn't. There's no way it would have passed. They stuck with their principles, and even all the way into the end, it they kept their principles, which is really cool.
I don't know what you're referring to now.
Oh, I'm talking about Obama.
Ah, okay.
You don't think that's true?
I don't know enough about it.
Okay, fair enough. Now, was there
I'm
anything
pretty young myself.
was there anything you wanted to discuss from our last discussion, or
I wanted to, I mostly wanted to ask you that hypothetical because, well, that was the main thing that, like, without scientific proof, you can still believe in something and support something. But, well, you kind of just said, I would like to hear your but, honestly.
the butt on what?
scientific proof, which I can find a lot of proof that are not, let's say, scientifically correct. I mean, that can be tested scientifically. Like what is good is not scientifical by default. So how
Yeah.
exactly would I go with something like that? Like,
Well, I mean, you would have to just see like if it improves any outcomes. Like if you're showing that it improves outcomes, right? And what I mean by that is like, okay, less poor people, there's less suffering, improved health, you know. I've even discussed like the Cuban like healthcare system with people and saying like, yeah, I mean, there's some things that the United States could learn from the Cuban healthcare system. It's quite good.
okay.
So I
Then I
hope
want
that
to talk
helps.
about income inequality. What's your position on income inequality?
I think income inequality or too much of a substantial income inequality will can cause social unrest, and we should strive to reduce that. Right now, with that being
Yeah.
said, income inequality in and of itself doesn't mean therefore we need to like stop all income inequality. It's just where you see income inequality to the point like people have a hard time eating, people have a hard time knowing where their next their next meal is coming from. Things like this is what causes people to like want to rise against the system and break it down, which fair enough. I mean, you can't, you're not eating, so obviously, you would do everything in your power to. That's why things like food stamps are like really important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but even having food stamp and having, let's say, uh, being able to live, it doesn't mean being able to live a good life, actual fulfilling life. Like maybe you
Sure.
can live, but you're working like 8 hours at a Walmart, and the rest of the
Hey,
time you're
what's wrong with
just,
8 hours at a Walmart?
well,
Are
it's
you
not
hating on the
very
working class?
fulfilling jobs.
Sorry, I'm just fucking with
Mm,
you.
right.
No, in all
In my,
seriousness, though, like, um, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I want to push for like more opportunities for people, which is fine. Like, I don't think that, but I guess the question is like, what does that end up looking like? Right. Whereas like I argue like some pragmatic policies, other people, argue, say we should have workers own the means of production, which I just disagree with.
uh, why do you disagree?
With workers owning the means of production,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
What's the proof of that?
There's the 20th century,
Wait,
dozens and dozens of countries where it was attempted, and the outcomes are far
which
worse.
countries? Which
I
countries?
mean, I can start listing off countries from Wikipedia and look at like their overall
Yeah.
their equality of wealth in comparison, or I'm sorry, the level of wealth in comparison to capitalist nations. It's not even close.
Yeah, but what are those countries?
I mean, I can pull it up on Wikipedia. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can give
No,
you
no, I
some of
mean,
them.
what one of the countries? What would it be? I- If I'm thinking correctly, you believe that one of the probably this state that was doing it was the USSR. Am I
That's one
right?
of them, sure.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It's not worker owned. It's
Yeah, I
it's
get it.
a
It's state
federal
capitalist. That's
state
fine.
that
Yeah, that's fine. The point is that it's attempted. You need to be able to transfer the ownership of the means of production from the private ruling class to the working class, and the end result is that there often needs to be some sort of state apparatus to make that a reality, and so it ends up being the autarkic state where it creates the state capitalism that you're referring to. The point is that none of this would have been a thing if they didn't strive for that socialism that they wanted so bad.
so striving for an idea that is on paper good,
Yep.
but
And then
fails to happen is bad.
yeah,
Even
the
if
result of it is bad. It is a bad result.
Yeah, but that was not the idea. Like that was completely done without thinking. Like
Okay.
it's strange that let's say thinking that the workers should own the means of production and let's say try goes into full dictatorship, but when in which workers are even less with less rights, with
Why,
less
I
ownership.
agree. It does end up going in that direction. Yeah. This is
Yeah,
why
but
I'm
that
saying
is
like it's not a good,
completely
it doesn't seem
logic,
to
is it?
work. Like again, like if I pull up the, like I can pull up the Wikipedia of like countries where like that there was socialist orientation. I could also bring up countries where, you know, that they have like marks of socialism in their constitution. But it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter which one I pick. Both of these countries, like all these countries, suck. None of them have come anywhere close to any of the countries that exist in the United States, in the West. It's not even
basically
close.
what you're saying is if it could be done, even with let's say zero changes, same productivity, but with the let's say workers owning the means of production, it would be better.
Um, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
If the what I was saying earlier, workers owned, would be same level of efficiency as the let's say what we have now, would you switch?
Yeah, I mean, if it's equal, then it would have a market reason to existing. Yeah. I mean,
No,
I mean, if it was equal, right, it doesn't really make an incentive to switch over, though, because at that point, it's like, okay, you have to make this giant infrastructure change or this giant system change that like gives equal performance. It would need to be greater, right, and substantially enough to where like the risks
yeah,
are not outweighing the reward.
yeah, that's the problem that I have with you, is
Okay.
that you don't care about democracy. That is
No, no,
just
not inherently. No, I think that like democracy is good, and that we should strive for democratic principles. I agree with you, but you have to ask yourself, why do you favor democracy to begin with, right? And if the result of the democracy makes life worse for people, I don't give a shit about the democracy.
yeah, but you just said that even if it's equal, you would still
Well, yeah, because you're talking about a giant change to the system. So, like, if you're going to make a
so
giant change to the
okay.
system, what I would want to see is not equal performance. I want to see better performance because then that leaves
Would be
a
better
reason
performance.
to do it.
It will be better performance. Like the only I was talking when I was talking about the performance, I was only talking about the economical performance. But
Okay.
having the
But you
workers
said
on
it
the means of
equal.
production, hmm?
But you said equal. I want it to be better.
Sorry, okay. I I think it will have better outcome by a social standard, not by an economical one. I really no,
But
I'm rephrasing it. I don't know for sure that it's gonna be a better outcome. What I know for sure is that it is gonna be a better social outcome.
okay. Well, let me ask you this. What are the countries that have the highest social outcomes in the world?
Social outcomes.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Because we're on the same
maybe
side in the
some North
sense that we want
European
more
countries.
opportunity for people, right? The question is what are the countries that have the highest levels?
I probably would say some North European countries,
Yeah, which are what?
which are social democrats
Okay.
mostly.
And do they argue is that capitalism or is that socialism in your eyes?
Capitalism is defined by being majoritative
private
private
ownership of the means of
organization,
production,
and
right?
yeah, private ownership, majority
Okay,
of
so the Nordic
of it.
countries would be capitalists.
Majority, so still capitalist, yeah, but
Yeah.
with
So,
let's
like, I
say,
think a capitalist nation with social safety nets is the way to go, right? I get your outcome, and it's capitalist.
and I was talking about an hypothetical right now, but
Okay, so
yes,
I'm saying you're going to make a giant. If you're going to make a giant change to that system, right? One, I need to see it's better than just the same, and then the second thing is you need to be damn sure that that's going to work. And when I mean damn sure. You need to be very, very sure. So that way you can ensure that millions of people don't end up dying as a result of bad policy.
mhm. Okay, so literally, like, I don't know how you think that reality works, but without trying the thing, you cannot know how the thing will go. You
Didn't
can
Were
have
you the
a
one that I
theory.
talked to about
Yeah, yeah,
economic models
I think yes,
and the computer models?
yes,
Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
you
That's what.
still haven't looked this up?
No, no, no. I looked this up. It's. I would encourage you. I would encourage you to look this up and find out that it is exactly as I told you. If such a computer would exist, in fact, it would be able to also predict every major economic crisis. That's just the way
That's
it
not
works.
necessarily true. Because it doesn't have
By
every
your
single
standards,
variable
and you
available,
can
but
prove
you
it.
can still make experimental models. And so what we should be able to observe
You
is
can make
benefit. I'm saying
experimental
it's step
models.
one.
Yeah, you
Now we're
can
stuck
make
in this.
experiment. Okay, I agree that the only thing we can prove right now that works, because the system is a capitalist one, is with a capitalist framework.
So
I agree with
let
you.
me ask you this. Have you ever thought that maybe the material dialectic already happened for capitalism, socialism? And have you ever thought of that?
What do you mean?
Well, there's the posited idea of the material dialectic, where you have a the
I think you're confusing Marx for Hegel, like Hegel for Marx. For
I'm
Marx.
referring to the material dialectic.
Yeah, but
That's Marx.
you're yes, and so you mean that the struggle between the, let's say,
Well, I'm saying like you
owner
have
class and the,
capitalism that then has to switch to socialism and into communism, and that this is a material dialectic that must follow. And if you look at like any of Hegel's work, you realize that there's like the initial thing that comes up, and then there's going to be the thesis, they call it, and then the antithesis, which is going to be the thing that rises up against it, and then eventually a synthesis of both of these ideas.
yeah.
And so I think like in terms of a material dialectic, you can actually argue that the synthesis has already happened.
And that's exactly the point that Marx criticized about Hegel, that Hegel philosophy could literally just, you can take the best performing system in a given amount, in a given time, so
Mm-hmm.
let's say the Roman Empire, and you can basically just stick with the Roman Empire. It's just that
Okay, well,
things happen.
so
Things happened before they concluded in the thesis. The thesis is now, so we are done. Like, that's
well,
it.
I don't. I of course agree with you in that it's not supposed to be done at this point, right? Obviously, there's going to be something past it, but my argument is I believe that the material dialectic, right, will likely not be socialism. I believe that the next step in a material dialectic will likely be like a bizarre AI world where all of the work is completed entirely by AI and it is now indistinguishable from man to AI work. And under that
Yeah, but
basis, if that were the case, you would actually end up with the communist utopia, except the only difference is there would be some technocratic oligarchs that control everything. This
do you
society
think
would
that's
be
good?
fundamentally a much better off society than what we're living now. But again, like this is an understanding and a difference in
Wait,
the end result of the material dialectic. I'm saying that the material
that's obvious.
dialectic for socialism happened. It's now the synthesis, which is capitalism with social safety nets.
One, no,
Okay.
because Marx understood history much better than Hegel did. Um, your understanding is, again, of Hegel. You think of, let's say, fights as, let's say, ideal fight, and the outcome is the result. So you have, let's say, the socialist against the capitalist. They battle out. The capitalist wins, but they have to uh, give certain, let's say, social net, and let's say they have to, let's say, bring some of the socialism with him to win. That's what you're arguing, right?
No, I'm saying that the material dialectic for socialism already happened and synthesis is already there. We already
Yeah.
got it.
So
It's
this,
called we call it the Nordic countries. Right. And so the next
yeah,
question is
and
like, okay, now we're going to see the synthesis happen in all these other countries, right? In result, right? Or at least the ones where like they have
but
plenty of
Marx
resources.
didn't do this. This is Hegel. For Marx, material
Marx
dialecticism is
argued the
understanding.
material dialectic. What are you talking about?
Yes, but you are. That is the problem. You don't know. You don't really know about Marx, because this is the
Okay.
first thing he criticized about Hegel, and that is
That's fair. I can
not
acknowledge all of that.
understanding class dynamics.
Hold on. So that's fair. I can acknowledge all that.
Yeah.
So what? But this doesn't refute my point.
Okay. So I'm gonna, if you let me actually finish, I can explain you why it defeats your point.
Okay.
Basically, the contrast is still going on. We still have a proletarian class, we still have a capitalist class, and they're still fighting. How? So, even in the Nordic countries, there are still workers fighting for more control, and capitalists fighting for people to have less control. The fight is still going on, even in these Nordic countries. So it's not resolved. That's the problem with Hegel. He thought he thought it about society, not about, say,
Okay, so you're
he,
saying like are people in Nordic countries just doing horrible? Like this just sounds to me that you're like
no,
upset that
but
we only have so much things available on Earth, right? Because we're on one Earth and
yeah,
there's like only so much materials that are available.
no, they are still fighting for better opportunities.
People in like
They're still fighting,
Norway are
for
fighting for
example,
better opportunities.
yeah,
That is bonkers to
there is
me.
still, no, there is still amount of workers that has to be paid more, that ask for more protections. Still people that ask for more democracy, and people, mostly capitalists, argue that the, let's say, the share that they got is what they deserve, and that's it. They don't want
Okay.
to give more.
Well, so what's
The
the big
fight is
deal?
still going on. Hmm?
What's the big deal?
That the fight is still going
There's
on.
always people that want
That's
more. There's never going to be a point where people like don't like.
exactly.
So what? Okay, so then I guess like Then what is your
No,
argument? Are
no,
you saying
no,
if the
no,
workers own the means of production, all of a sudden everybody has more and everybody's happy? I don't
no, no.
agree with that at all.
You don't know Marx. I am
No, I'm
starting to tell.
asking you. I'm not asking
Yes,
Marx. I'm
please
asking
let me
you.
answer. Let me answer then, instead of misrepresenting my points. So we are we are still in a fight, in a struggle that will only end when the division ends. At least this fight. There are two classes which have two different interests. One wants the workers to be paid less than to gain profit. One and the other one wants to, well, the workers want to be paid more. The only way of fixing this is making everyone a worker.
What about people who want more than just material conditions met?
How is that question in any way, shape, or form relevant?
It's relevant
Like, what's
because
your
I'm
point?
asking you, you get your society, right? Now everybody is a worker. Great, wonderful. Everyone's happy. But there's a minority of people where they're not happy. They want more. You said earlier people would always want more. So that is
Yeah,
true. You're correct. People do always want more. And so
yeah,
the
but not
question
they're all workers.
is that is it possible for this person who's just a worker who wants more?
It will be it will be possible for every worker to ask for more. It's obvious.
No,
Now
but
they
they
are all
don't want
workers. There's
more. They
no.
want the whole thing.
You mean a person becoming a capitalist
No,
again?
no, they want. No, no. It's actually a hypothetical. There's a hypothetical person that I refer to as Thungor. Okay, there's a
Okay.
few people in this in society. The question is what you end up doing with him. What happens is that you end up with a highly charismatic, highly aggressive narcissist who ends up getting a little bit of power. And because they get a little bit of power, they want more. And so what they do is that they end up collecting followers who end up following them. And then because they have more power than other people, they end up taking over. There are
How is
numerous
that?
people like this in society. Just because you made everybody equal doesn't remove Thungor from society.
Yeah, but you don't. Tango exists in the society today, and is a
Correct.
thriving capitalist who is making billions and
Correct.
making the
Yeah,
life
but
of
that person
hundreds
is
of
able to
people
take their
really bad.
intense amount of selfishness and actually make it into something that everybody benefits from, such as cheap goods and services.
Okay, yeah, definitely can do that. He can uh, he can work more or work more efficiently. He can, let's say, plan.
So, but hold on, if
He
they're a
can plan.
worker, they only get so
Yeah,
much. There's no incentive to work harder. Are you saying that if
yeah,
people work harder
obviously
that they
there
should
is.
get more money?
Yes, why not?
Are you in favor? I'm sorry. Are you in favor of abolishing class?
Yes,
How do you abolish class if one dude is getting more?
that's not what class means.
If you get paid
My God,
more,
you don't have
you
really
have
any
more, right?
understanding of. Yes, but that is
So this can
mostly where.
establish a class distinction. Yes?
Okay, okay. Maybe you really don't know anything about Marx. Marx didn't. The between the class struggle is between the bourgeoisie, the one that have control of the means of production, and the proletariat that don't have the property of this of this means. A worker society is two things. If you are talking about market socialism, it would be let's say it would be a society in which workers have a equal share of the company, but still in this let's say in this society, you still can get more money after the share. If you work more, you get more money.
But that creates a class distinction.
No, because in a system like this, there is no way to acquire more property. There is just no way. You would
What?
have to.
So the
work
money is
2
worthless?
jobs. No. That's why I'm telling you that you don't know Marx. Marx, like, and everybody else.
But do you
There
understand
is a
that you're
distinction.
arguing this bizarre society that has never, ever happened, ever? It only exists on paper. And you're saying we should reform all of society to make that a reality. And it's
Yes.
it is so extreme. It's so far beyond the pale of like an actual working system that we can't, you may as well be talking about unicorns. I'm
Is it
serious.
working?
That when I hear you talking about
working?
this in this way,
No,
it
is it
makes me
working?
think that this person is
Is it
arguing in
working?
favor of unicorns.
Yeah, but the current system is literally compromising the world that we live in. I wouldn't call it a working system.
What? Hold
Or
on. We
you don't
currently
believe in
have
climate change.
capitalist systems, and the happiest societies are, in fact, capitalist nations.
The
So it's
climate
possible that
change
there
is
could be
gonna-
a society that could be better, which is fair, right? In which case, then I would be in favor of that system. Right now, it's capitalism. So I still go in favor of capitalism. I have zero
Okay.
indication that is the case for socialism. And when I say socialism, I mean the workers' ownership of the means of production. I have zero indication of that. In
Your
fact, there's a
critic-
strong indication
the
that
only
these
critic of
societies
that,
fare off
that you
worse,
have-
not better.
The only critic that you have given me so far is, but what if a tyrant goes into power? That's the only one, and that can happen in capitalism too.
Yeah, but in
It
capitalism,
happened
it
before.
actually works.
Mostly.
Thungor actually is a productive citizen, and in your society, Thungor turns your society into Mad Max.
No. Why?
What?
Why? You don't understand anything. It's hilarious. If in the society now, this person can become a billionaire, he can do so many shitty things. Like literally, Coca-Cola just can go into a shitty part of the world, enslave people, and not be liable.
Wait, I agree with you.
Only
That's
a
a bad
fine.
thing. We can work together in stopping things like that. But that
Yes.
that requires a strong government
work
under a
together.
capitalist system. I agree with you.
Yes.
So, but that doesn't mean workers should own the means of production. In fact, there's plenty of worker ownership models which did take advantage of the third world. It doesn't just magically change just because there's this supply issue. There's a supply issue because things have to go from point A to point B. The reason why things have to go from point A to point B is because there's stuff over there and we want it over here. And the reason why that's the case is because we live in a Euclidean universe. Making the workers' ownership of the means of production doesn't get rid of this Euclidean problem. It's still there.
You're right. You're completely right.
So
I
then
don't
what is
disagree
your
with you.
argument?
But it's the same that I brought you before. If I can prove, and I can prove, that this is socially better, that makes improvement in the social sense, if we have equal or better, but for now equal, outcomes economy-wise, then you still wouldn't be in favor just because
Yeah,
I
because
don't know.
you have to make a transition.
Yeah, by socially I means getting people.
I'm going to ask you the
happier,
same question that I asked
getting
Joven.
people.
This dude just went straight into kill him. You got to kill him, which was fucking crazy to me. He said,
Okay.
or hold on, the question I'm presenting you, okay, let's say it's equal. Let's assume under your hypothetical it's equal. You now manage to convince the entirety of the United States government that we are switching over to a socialist system. Great. Awesome. It is equal, right? The level of performance. Okay.
Yeah.
I own a business. Let's say I own a business. I got like 100, 150 employees. I've had this business in my family for the past 90 years.
Hmm.
I don't want to give it up. It's my business. I'm not interested in selling it to anybody. I don't want to give it up. It's mine. What do you do with a guy like me?
It depends. If you're the minority,
Well,
well,
yeah, I'm
I
the
can
only
just
guy.
die out. I can
Me
just
and well, me
wait
and the
for
family.
your
Let's just say 6 people out of 150 workers. I don't
well,
want to give it up. It's mine.
uh,
I built it from the
one,
ground up. It shouldn't be. It
yeah,
shouldn't be yours. My grandfather worked on
fine.
it. My father worked on it. I'm not giving it up. Fuck you.
If you're a minority, fine. People are mostly agreeable with my idea. In time, society will go towards my idea. So people, let's say, that want to have a
I
business,
want you
that
to
have
answer my
a business.
question and not operate your like in your brain like you're thinking about, well, eventually things go in my direction.
No, no,
Answer my
I
question.
agree
What do you
that
do with the guy?
even even if a 10% of the population still wants to own their business, it's fine by me. I don't care.
Oh, okay. They can own their business?
I don't think it's moral, but I will let them because forcing them is worse.
Okay. Cool. Wait, hold on. This is great. You actually have a real position now. Okay, so under this basis, right? Then what is different between your socialist society and just like, I don't know, Norway? Is it like you just want work like all workers to own the means of production?
Well, the reason that I said that if you are the minority, I can allow that is because if most of the people can get a choice between working in a, let's say, worker co-op, having share and stuff, mm, having the same amount of probability of success and still choose you, which is like you have to like it's probably a good deal at this point. You're probably giving them a fair share in your own, let's say, like if they have a serious competition with, like literally, you enter a company, you gain tot percentage of their share. Well, then you're giving them a pretty good deal, and I'm fine with that.
So
But
hold
if
on.
you're not,
Like what I'm
if you're
asking
not,
though is what is so different between your hypothetical society and like Norway or a Nordic country? Like I'm lost.
well, mostly because, well, even if the board of directors in, say, Norway or countries like this, it's only 50% workers, but 50% are not the percentage of the workers that work there. It's mostly like 90 to 95%. They are not
Okay.
represented.
What if having it as a worker ownership model actually does not make business sense, but actually can hurt the business?
Then I would go against it if it's, let's say, more than a 10 to 15% loss.
What?
Yeah, I prefer that people are happy to people having being slave to work. I do prefer that. I am ready to have a slight decrease in productivity if people are happier.
Um, well, the question is what makes people happy?
It's by far not money. Every
What if I
sociology
told you that it is
study,
through people's material conditions where they can actually pursue the things that they find valuable?
it is true.
Okay, which usually require resources, which
Yes,
money,
money
right?
is a means to an end.
Yes.
It's
So
not the end.
I'm arguing for having more things available, right? More products and services. So that way prices are lower And so when prices are lower, that means that people can afford more things. And so they get to live out their life as they see fit to a greater degree than they otherwise would.
Well,
That's
for
where, that's the
example,
way that I think about it. And so
yeah, but
you're
it's the
saying you're
same. I
okay
guess.
with a hit on this. So you're basically attacking my like at a fundamental level that literally makes life worse so long as it favors your ideology. I find it completely
No, no, I
unpragmatic.
don't make life worse. This is a
By
trade-off.
removing their material conditions, by removing
No,
the,
no.
by having less productivity in businesses, that does make life worse.
Yeah,
Someone
but
has to
would you
make the
like?
products.
Yeah, this is a choice of my own. I understand if you prefer being a slave that is 15%
When
more
did I say anything
active
about a
than
slave?
you just said that you don't care about democracy and that
What?
money is all about that it takes. Yes, honestly, like you don't care.
Are you taking this at good
You,
faith? I don't think you are. I didn't say
no, I don't
anything
think you are
about
too.
slavery. Why are you arguing that a
Okay.
worker is like a slave?
Well, I'm not arguing that it's like I'm arguing that it's similar.
What?
If you don't agree with this, I don't know what reality you live in, honestly. That it's similar by the fact that the slave needs to obey the master to survive, and maybe not in Norway, but in majority of the capitalist countries, if you don't
What makes
work,
somebody, let me
don't
ask you this. What makes somebody a slave?
being owned by someone.
As property. The
Yes,
human is property.
yes.
Okay. At what point is working at McDonald's are you property to the McDonald's corporation?
That's why it's similar, not. I think you're
Okay, so
not
then why are
owned
you comparing a worker to a slave? Why would you
again
take, why would you
because it's
characterize my
similar,
otherwise
not
cogent argument and say that it is
because it's not
that
cogent.
it's
I'm
me
trying to
that
make
it's me
positive
arguing in favor of slavery?
one. Okay, I can make this hypothetical. What if in a world with slaves, the slaves were 10 to 15% more happy? No, I mean more economically found. Would you be in favor of slavery then?
Under your insanely bizarre hypothetical, I suppose so, but that's not the reality.
Okay,
Obviously,
so
the reality
don't.
is people are not happy under slavery. It makes life worse. Not only
No,
that, they
no,
are no longer
that is
economic players. Because they're not an economic player, that means that they basically can't contribute to society, which means less products and services, which means more expensive products, which means there's a huge opportunity cost, which makes life worse for everyone, white and black combined. It literally follows perfectly my entire argument.
yes, but then I would really let's say I really don't understand you well. This is probably just a personal difference that I would much, much, I would much prefer being free and more,
Yeah.
let's say, politically active, politically relevant than having 10 to 15% more money.
Well, I'm not arguing for 10 to 15% more money, right? And by the way, just so you know, 10 to
That is my
15% on
example.
the
That
entire economy
was my
is
example.
not a small amount. I don't know last time you checked, but we have tried COVID, and that wasn't really too fun in terms of like our total inflation. Giant problem. It,
Yes, okay. So the problem that is
so
the
someone said in
maybe the
chat,
GDP,
they said in the
the
USA,
GDP.
employee workers on average are increasingly contributing to GDP, but on average are getting paid less proportionally to them, increasingly contributing to more to GDP. That is correct. I agree. We should do things about that. I think we should hold companies accountable for their actions. But do you understand that that's a big, giant change from like me saying, oh, we should divest the ownership of the means of production to be for the working class, and rather just say, hey, we should have more autonomy. We should argue for removing right to work states. That's a really good example. Union states do a lot better in terms of worker rights and in terms of worker pay than non-union states.
Who are you
And
responding
union
to?
states tend to keep up with the GDP growth, but that is not the case for right to work states. So there you go. Done. I can resolve the problem without having to transfer the ownership of the means of production, effectively shifting the entire global economic system. It's completely bonkers.
Okay, so in the example that I gave you was that for a society that is workers owned, so to me at least more democratic, more free, you would say no to that if if the, let's say, productivity or whatever you, let's say, perceive as value went down, economic value, by 10 to 15%. That
Okay.
was the discussion, right?
Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
Why?
Because you are shrinking the economy by 10 to 15%. And this, by the way, assumes your small number of 10 to 15%, by the way. I venture to say it's probably more.
Yeah, but that is the hypothetical, and that's why we have very much difference in value. You can make 10 to 15% changes, let's say, down, while still having, for majority of the people under a capitalistic system, life better. It's
Yeah, I mean, life gets better under capitalism. I don't see that.
no. I just told another thing. I told that if I just told that even without 10% of the GDP, you can make the life of a person
Disagree.
better.
Shrinking the economy by 10 to 15% doesn't make people's lives better. It makes people's lives quantifiably, with math, worse.
So, again,
average people are invested in the economy. The existence of the economy doing well directly affects every individual. However, you know who it doesn't affect as bad? Rich people. It doesn't affect rich people anywhere close. Right? Because a rich person, they could afford losing 10, 15%. Not the worker. They can't afford losing 10 to 15%.
Why don't we just cut that? If in a society we would make the decision of, you're saying that it is right for rich people, but in a system in which everybody gets the same,
except they don't if they work more, right?
If you work more or be more efficient, you get more.
Okay. Let me give you an example, right? Do you think?
Oh my God.
Let me try this. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish. Yeah? I'll let you finish.
Okay, so. No, go on, please. I kind of forgot what I was going for.
So let me ask you this, Citra. Here's an example. I created an automated system to be able to automatically query an SQL database. And then upon the automatic querying of that said SQL database, it would grab documents necessary to send to a litigator, to a doctor, and to the client, right? All in a single print. And then on top of it, by going into the SQL database and creating a letterhead for who it needs to go. Then there was an automated folding machine that would fold it up and then put it onto a piece of mail. There was actually an average of, I think, about 6 or 7 workers that would have to be folding this mail and creating their own letterheads all day long. Okay?
Mhm.
So assume that you're paying each one of these workers a measly 40,000 a year. Multiply that by 6. That's $240,000 a year. Okay. I create a simple program that's 200 lines long, and boom, I just saved the company 240,000. Are you saying that I should get paid $240,000 for making 240 lines of code?
Actually, in this economy, yes.
That is fucking bonkers, dude. I
Why?
completely, that is so, I mean, like, sounds nice, but I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it's realistic. The reality is that these workers didn't get fired. They ended up just doing more productive work. That's what happened.
So they just got their labor exploited.
No, they do more productive work. They don't get fired. It actually quantifiably just makes the economy better. It makes things more available. It makes things cheaper, and as a
Oh,
result,
exactly.
it makes things have more opportunity. It makes
So
things
then
better.
why not we just keep the machine, like what the code, and the workers? That's what happened, right?
That's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what we did. What's
Did
the
you
problem?
also pay the guy that
They're
amount?
now they don't have to sit there all day long fucking folding paper. Wasted
Okay.
time and making
So
letterheads.
they got fired, right?
No. No, that's the thing. A lot of people think that this additional efficiency suddenly means that they all get fired. No, they don't get fired. They do more productive shit.
No.
They were all
Please,
trained workers in
I
other
don't
things,
really.
and they went and did those other things.
Basically, what you're suggesting is there is a system that saves a lot of time to people. That's what
Yep.
you're saying, right?
Yeah. Well, the question is whether or not I should reap those the rewards for every single dollar that I basically. There's a market value to risk, and I believe that, like, when it comes to risk, that whoever put in the risk are the ones that reap the rewards and benefit and profit. That's what I think.
With the risk of what?
Risk. Risk of
What is
trying to
the
start a
risk?
company.
Which is for somebody
Immense.
that already has the capital without having to take debt, it's basically none.
No, then they have the huge amount of capital they could lose.
They can just sell it. Most of the
What?
things, most of the
You
properties,
really
most
think
of the
that you could just like put money into a business and all of that money you're going to get it back out? You think there's no depreciation whatsoever?
of course there can be
So then what is
depreciation.
your
That
point?
is the same thing
Also, what's the
for
most
money.
expensive thing in a company? It's labor. That's the most. You're not getting
Yeah.
your money back for the labor. So, like, you sat there and you did all that fucking work. You lost your fucking family fortune, and then you go bankrupt. Oh well, it is what it is. But
What
that
are you
doesn't get shown
meaning?
in any
They can
news
always
stories.
sell. They can always sell the business.
What?
Most of the times they
I'm
get
saying that
literally
they don't
no.
get anywhere close to the money back. It's
Wait,
not like
you
it's
know,
zero risk. If
do
it
you
was
know?
zero risk, everybody
Please,
would be
please,
doing it.
let me make a point. Do you believe that in this current economy, it is easier, let's say, it is let's say comparable having to pay a worker or having to buy a house or a place where you can get the workers into work? What is the thing that costs more? Much more.
I guess the building in the short term.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if your business
But that's not
fails,
true in the long term.
not in the long term, but
Yeah, what ends up
exactly,
paying
who
more
would,
or costing
no,
more?
who would,
It's the
please let me
worker. They
finish.
cost more than anything.
Yes, but
Also, and just so you know,
if,
right, when you buy a
please let me
property,
finish.
that goes straight into equity. Like you that's an example of not only you get your money back, but it appreciates in value.
Okay, so for the point that I was trying to make was you bought the property, which is the most amount of capital, You buy the goods, which is a fraction, and you pay the workers with this, even a smaller fraction for a limited amount of time, that is, and you see it fails. You lost maybe, at being generous, 5% of the value of everything. Yes, you lost 5%.
What are you
because,
talking about?
okay, maybe you don't know the economy right now,
What
but
do you think liquidation looks like to a company? They don't lose 5%. I wish it was lose 5%. What about 95%? What about 100%?
95%
What are
for
you
what?
talking about? What do you
No,
think
please.
bankruptcy looks like?
No,
You think you
please,
just like
please.
get all your money back?
Please, if you still own
What is this?
if you still own the place that you bought, you still have an enormous amount of cash.
What?
No?
Okay, that's a different discussion as to whether or not people can accumulate their cash. But actually,
Yes.
that's an argument. Hold on. So just so you know, like the Nordic countries, a lot of the reasons as to why they're rich as they are is actually because that they actually have generational wealth where people like they just pass on the same house that they've passed on for the past 400 years. Nobody ends up paying fucking rent. Nobody's paying a mortgage, and as a result, they basically live much better lives. Which, yeah, that makes sense. But like what you're arguing is that this generational wealth concept is not a good idea, but I'm saying it is.
No, you have no understanding of what the word means at all. And basically,
Of what
if
generational wealth means?
yeah,
What is generational
because
wealth? Go ahead. If I don't understand it, you should explain it
maybe
to
you
me.
don't understand everything, because
Yeah, so explain
what I
it to me
said,
because obviously I don't understand.
yeah,
Please teach me.
of course, I'm gonna do it.
All right.
So, example that I was doing before. If you see, you buy the property, which is the big amount of money that you're investing right now, then you pay the workers, you get the means, and you find out, well, the business that I thought was gonna be valuable, it's not valuable. I'm not making profit. What happens? I can sell everything except the money that I lost on the goods that were sold, and the labor that I had to pay. But for someone that was able to buy a place, what is the risk exactly? The majority of the wealth of this person
My dude,
was not
you are so
was
far
not
out of reality, it's not even funny. I don't mean to be rude, but
no,
I'm
exactly.
very
Well, in
serious
this
about this.
example,
You
what
actually have zero idea how this works. Okay, let me give you an
maybe
example. When
okay,
you buy a property, okay, you now have a
yeah,
liquid asset. Okay, great.
yeah,
That's good. Now, what happens quite often is that businesses aren't necessarily profitable on the get go. In fact, they can go several years in the red. You need to be prepared for the fact that it's going to be in the red for the next 3 to 5 years. And then maybe after that, those 5 years, you could eventually end up in the black. Hopefully, you had enough capital to do so. What happens quite often in a business that is actually able to purchase a mortgage on a building is that they often will take out a second mortgage to overcome this additional loss. So they are incurring a ridiculous amount of debt to hopefully get to the black. So that way, hopefully that they can actually make some profit and live the American dream. Okay,
yeah.
that
I
is
agree.
very often what happens. So
Okay,
when
so
it doesn't do
please,
well and the
let
black never happens, they are sunk.
let me
They have destroyed them and their entire business and all of their assets. All of it goes back to the
maybe
bank.
you
All
don't
of that goes.
remember.
In fact, there's a high
Maybe
probability
you
that the
don't
bank will go
remember.
after your house.
You
They
don't
will
know
go
what you're.
after your own property, even if it is
Yeah,
an
but
LLC.
you
What
don't
are you
know
talking about?
because you forgot the example. It's an example in which
You're
nobody
giving a
has taken
specific
back.
example that is super unrealistic. It's not the reality.
Wait, you don't believe that that people that can buy a place and then pay workers and
What do you do
cost
when you
and
go to
then
buy a place?
what is this
Most people
question?
don't have the money to buy a place
Yeah,
outright
most
cash.
people don't.
What they do is that they go do what?
Take a mortgage
Yes, they go to a
or a loan.
bank, get a mortgage, they get a loan, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but I'm
And
not
then what
talking
happens
about
if they
that.
can't pay it?
They go into debt.
Correct.
They,
So then
which
what
is
is your
not the
argument?
example
What
that I
is
was
this?
making. This is an
You're sitting there
example
saying
of,
that they walk away with a pretty penny, but the reality is that no, they could lose everything and then some. And it's an
yeah,
incredibly high risk. If what
yeah,
you
but
were
this is,
saying was true, literally every single person ever would be starting a business right now. It literally, like what you're saying makes
yes,
no sense.
it makes sense because I made the prerequisite that the person can buy the place without getting into debt. That was the whole premise of the argument. Maybe you forgot. Instead of going on a rant for like
I'm saying it doesn't make
5 minutes.
sense. It makes
It does
no
make
sense.
it
No,
does
not at
make
all.
perfect
I
sense
don't think you have
because
any concept
no,
as to
no,
how
no. Please
businesses
let me
work.
finish
I think
this.
you need to
Please
take
let me
some
finish
business
this.
courses.
Please
I
let me
think you need
finish
to
this.
read like, I
No,
don't
no.
know, like some fucking
Please
some
let me
business
finish.
manual so you understand what it
Please,
means to actually start a
please, please,
business.
please,
There's so many people
please.
that do so
No,
fucking
no,
shit,
please,
man. It's
please,
it like you what you're talking about is so
please.
intensely
I'm
stressful.
the bourgeois class,
Oh my
at
god.
least for my understanding, is is a class that has property without having debt, without being in the red. That's for me what bourgeoisie means. I wouldn't say that if you, let's say, are bought a place like a restaurant and you work there and you're the boss and you're like fucking in debt, that you're a member of the bourgeoisie. I think that the example that I was trying to make was that for most of the bourgeoisie, it's not a risk. And most of the companies, the big companies, well, they are owned by the bourgeoisie. And most of the stock and the ownership is made by people that are very, very wealthy and could care less if they lose 10 to 50%, like you said. They wouldn't care at all if, for example, they can gain personal gain in another way. For example, I don't know, maybe they want a certain product that is not let's say profitable. I don't know, but they can afford to take this risk while the majority of the people can't. We agree on this. Most people can't, but they have so much power, so much wealth that they can do that. I don't want a society in which the high majority of the people cannot open a business while the 1% or the 2 or the 5% has all the power to open as much businesses as they want without taking risk, without being accountable.
Do you have anything else? I have nothing else to say. I'll let you have the
Do
last
you
word.
think that this,
Nope,
like, do
don't
you
ask
think
me
that
a
even this,
question. Just give me your last bits. If you ask a question, I have to respond, and we've been talking for a good more than an hour now.
it
So
will,
so
okay,
so
I'm gonna
give
make
me.
my last
I'm being
take.
courteous and letting you get the final word. Go ahead and give it. Was that like your last bit?
I'm gonna start my last bit.
Okay, go
It
for
is
it.
very hard to debate people. I understand, and a debate should always be focused to have a better position at the end. If you run away like a little then good luck.
I'm not running away.
You are.
And you did the same thing last time. I literally
You're
invited
right.
you
I did.
again to talk to, if I was running away, that I'm saying that I have time constraints, right? I'm only here for 3 hours and then I got edits to do, right? I want to get a decent amount of videos out. You got another 2 hour one. Okay. That's the only reason. Okay. It has nothing to do with me running away.
You run away by in every question, and you form hypotheticals that you attack my hypothetical without knowing it, without knowing what it means, without knowing anything. You're debating a hypothetical socialist that believed that Stalin was good. All this time you tried to do this,
Yep.
and the
Anyway.
times that you were not, you were saying that democracy is not good. So I guess you are Stalinist for me. So bye.
All right. Okay, guys. I I've forgotten my position. Apparently, my position is Stalinist.